I had been working late for weeks, pouring myself into a major project, unaware that my world was about to unravel. It started 6 weeks ago, on an otherwise ordinary night. I arrived home around 9 p.m., expecting the usual quiet. My wife, Carol, had told me she was at her sister's house, helping with wedding preparations, while our 17-year-old daughter, Becca, was supposedly studying at a friend's place. I grabbed a beer, exhausted, but something felt off. Carol had been acting distant lately, always on her phone, making vague excuses to leave, avoiding eye contact. Then I saw it. Her laptop sat open on the kitchen counter, a single notification glowing on the screen. A Facebook message from someone named Derek. "Can't wait to see you again tomorrow. Last night was amazing." My stomach dropped. My hands moved on their own, clicking on the chat history. Hundreds of messages, stretching back for months, plans, confessions, hotel meetups. A sickening love story written in real time. I took screenshots, my heart pounding in my ears, my vision blurring with disbelief. At 11 p.m., Carol's car pulled into the driveway. I shut the laptop and waited. She walked in, surprised to see me still awake. "Oh, you're up. How was your sister's?" she asked casually, setting down her bag. "Exhausting. So much wedding stuff." She headed for the stairs. "That's interesting," I said, my voice calm, controlled. "Because your sister just posted pictures from her spa day, with her bridesmaids. No mention of you." She froze. Just for a second. Then she turned, her expression shifting, not to guilt, not to remorse, but to anger. "You went through my messages," she hissed. "How dare you?" "Your laptop was open," I shot back. "That's what you're upset about. Not the fact that you've been cheating on me for months." The argument was brutal. She accused me of neglecting her, of being boring, of prioritizing work over our marriage. I reminded her that I had been working to support our family while she spent our money on hotel rooms with another man. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Carol wasted no time spinning her version of events to Becca. She painted me as controlling, paranoid, a man obsessed with invading her privacy. And to my shock, Becca believed her. "You're such a jerk, Dad," she snapped that night. "Mom's allowed to have friends. You're just being possessive." It didn't matter how much I tried to explain. Carol had always been the fun parent, while I was the one enforcing curfews, making sure homework got done, paying the bills. And now, that dynamic was turning against me. The next 2 weeks were hell. I moved into the guest room while my lawyer prepared the divorce papers. Carol became bolder. She started bringing Derek into our house when I wasn't home. "He's actually really cool," Becca told me one evening, her voice dripping with defiance. When I finally handed Carol the divorce papers, she smirked. "Good luck," she sneered. "I'm getting the house, half your retirement, and alimony. My lawyer says I've got this locked down." But the real knife to the heart came when Becca made her announcement. "I'm moving out with Mom." She grinned, triumphant. "Derek has a huge house. With a pool. We don't need your money anymore." I didn't argue. I just nodded. "If that's what you want." The next day, I cut them off financially. No more shopping sprees, no more restaurants on my dime. I cancelled the family credit card, opened a new account for household expenses only. Carol was livid. "You can't just cut us off." "I'm still providing necessities," I said calmly. "But I'm not funding your dates with Derek anymore." Becca called me a petty loser and stormed out. That night, they packed their bags and left for Derek's mansion. "Have a nice life," Carol called over her shoulder. So I let them go. I focused on myself, my work, my health, my finances. I gathered evidence for the divorce, screenshots, credit card statements, witness accounts. I was moving forward. Then, 8 weeks after they walked out, my doorbell rang at 11 p.m. I opened the door to find them standing there, Carol and Becca, clutching suitcases, looking exhausted and defeated. "Can we come in?" Carol's voice was small. I didn't move, didn't speak. I just waited. She swallowed hard. "Derek kicked us out." The story spilled out in pieces. Derek wasn't the wealthy businessman he pretended to be. His money came from scamming people. When Carol moved in, she found out he already had another woman living there. As soon as that woman left, Carol was next in line. Then came the drinking, the possessiveness, the screaming matches. And finally, the moment Derek asked Carol to put his expenses on her credit cards. When she refused, he exploded. Told me to get out. And to take my brat with me. Beside her, Becca stood silently, tears streaking her face. I let them in but kept my distance. What's your plan? I asked. Carol exhaled shakily. We have nowhere else to go. My sister won't take us. She's furious I lied about the wedding. My parents are in Europe for months. Most of my friends took your side. I took a deep breath. You can stay in the guest room tonight. We'll figure something out tomorrow. The next morning, I set the rules. 1. The divorce was still happening. Carol nodded, surprisingly without argument. 2. They could stay temporarily, but Carol needed to find a job and her own place within 2 months. 3. No more disrespect. No bringing Derek back. No manipulations. Becca broke down. I'm so sorry, Dad. I was horrible. I should have believed you. Why didn't you? I asked. Her voice was small, ashamed. Because it was easier. Derek's house was awesome. And Mom made you sound like the bad guy. But then I saw how he treated her. How he made her cry almost every night. And I realized. Mom probably lied about a lot of things. Carol looked away, guilt written all over her face. I never should have involved Becca. That was unforgivable. The next few days were tense, but civil. Carol started job hunting. Becca kept to herself. And I was still figuring out where we all went from here. The call from my lawyer came unexpectedly, carrying news that made my stomach turn. Derek wasn't just a liar or a manipulator, he was under active investigation for fraud. The police wanted to speak with Carol. When I told her, she paled, her hands trembling as she whispered, I didn't know anything. I swear. For the first time in months, I believed her. I went with her to meet the investigators. They wanted details, documents she might have seen, people who came and went, conversations she'd overheard. Carol answered everything honestly, even telling them how Derek had pressured her to put his expenses on her credit cards. Afterward, we sat in silence in my car. Then, out of nowhere, she broke down. I've made such a mess of everything, she whispered, voice thick with regret. Our marriage. Becca's relationship with you. And for what? Some guy who was just using me. I didn't comfort her. But I didn't twist the knife either. We all make choices, Carol, I said simply. That night, as I sat in my office, Becca appeared at the door. Her face was serious, but there was something else there, hesitation, guilt. Dad, I need to tell you something. She stepped inside, closing the door softly behind her. When we were at Derek's, I went through Mom's phone one night. Her voice wavered, but she pressed on. I saw all the messages between them from before. How she lied to you for months. How she planned to take as much money as possible in the divorce. She took a shaky breath, her hands gripping the back of the chair in front of her. I confronted her, and she admitted everything. That's when things got bad with Derek. I think he only wanted her because he thought she'd get a lot from the divorce. When it became clear she wouldn't, he turned on her. I leaned back, processing her words. Why are you telling me this now? She swallowed hard. Because you deserve the truth. And because I'm not taking her side anymore. The next day, Carol asked to talk. She looked exhausted, drained in a way I hadn't seen before. I want to settle fairly, she said, her voice quiet but certain. No attempt to take half your retirement. No excessive alimony. Just enough help to get back on my feet for a few months. My lawyer told me that agreeing to this would save thousands in legal fees. We drafted the agreement, and Carol signed without hesitation. 3 weeks later, she found a job at an insurance office and started looking for an apartment. Becca and I, slowly but surely, began to rebuild what had been broken. We even went fishing last weekend, something we hadn't done in years. I was still hurt. Still angry, sometimes. But for the first time, I could see a way forward without being bitter forever. A month passed, and the Derek situation exploded. It turned out he'd been running an elaborate investment scam, targeting recently divorced women. He'd lure them in, make them feel safe, then convince them to invest in fake business ventures using their settlements. Carol hadn't been his only victim, there were 7 others. When the story hit the local news, she was devastated. I feel so stupid, she admitted one night after Becca had gone to bed. How did I not see through him? I almost said, Because you were too busy destroying our marriage to notice the red flags. But I didn't. Instead, I told her the truth. Con men are good at what they do. She looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. You're being kinder than I deserve. It's not about what you deserve, I replied. It's about who I want to be. Something shifted after that conversation. We stopped pretending. We started being honest, not to reconcile, but to heal. To co-parent better. Carol found an apartment and moved out the following week. I helped her take some furniture I no longer needed. Becca decided to stay with me on weekdays and spend weekends with her mother. It was entirely her choice, and Carol accepted it without argument. The divorce continued smoothly. Carol stuck to our agreement. My lawyer, surprisingly, seemed almost disappointed that there wouldn't be a court battle. One night over dinner, I finally asked Becca something that had been weighing on my mind. When you sided with your mom, said those things, and left, how much of that was your choice versus her influence? She thought for a long time before answering. Mom pushed her version of events hard. But I made my choice. I wanted the pool. The fancy house. The cool stepdad without rules. It was easier to believe you were the problem. She met my eyes, guilt flickering in hers. But that's on me. Not her. I was old enough to know better. I nodded, appreciating her honesty. Can I ask you something? She said after a moment. Of course. Why did you let us back in so easily? After everything? I didn't hesitate. Because you're my daughter, and I love you. I took a breath. As for your mom, we were married for 19 years. That counts for something, even after what happened. Not enough to stay together. But enough to not want her homeless. Becca gave me a small, knowing smile. You're a better person than both of us. I'm not, I corrected. I just had more time to process everything. The truth was, I was still angry sometimes. But I'd started seeing a therapist to work through it, and I was realizing that holding on to that anger only hurt me. Carol's sister got married last weekend. Carol wasn't invited, but she sent a gift and an apology letter. Small steps toward repairing the damage she'd caused. I had started making my house feel like mine. Fresh paint, new furniture, a space that felt good to be in. I reconnected with old friends I had lost touch with during my marriage. My brother asked if I was ready to date again. Not yet, I admitted. Maybe someday. But right now, I was focused on healing. 6 months passed. The divorce was finalized last month. Surprisingly, it remained amicable. Carol only asked for what was fair. My lawyer said we were the easiest case he'd handled all year. Carol was doing okay, she'd been promoted at work, moved into a slightly nicer apartment, and started dating again. Slowly. Carefully. Derek. He pleaded guilty to multiple fraud charges. 5 years in prison. Restitution orders for his victims, including Carol. She probably wouldn't see much money, but knowing justice had been served felt satisfying. Becca graduated high school last week. Carol and I both attended, sitting separately but civilly. We even had dinner together afterward. Awkward as hell, but we managed. 2 months ago, Carol asked to meet for coffee. She handed me an envelope. I wrote everything down. All the affairs, yes, there were others before Derek. All the lies. All the manipulation with you and Becca. I hesitated. Why give me this now? Because you deserve the truth. And my therapist says I need to take full accountability. That night, I read every word. 3 pages of confessions and apologies. Painful, but liberating. For the first time, the fog of unanswered questions about our marriage lifted. The next day, I called her. I read your letter. All of it. A pause. Yeah. Thanks for finally being honest. Another pause. Then, do you think you'll ever forgive me? I surprised myself with my answer. I already have. Not for you. For me. I couldn't move forward holding on to all that anger. Becca and I were good now. She had grown. She had learned. And so had I. Life hadn't turned out how I planned. But that didn't mean it couldn't still be good.